Okay, Stephen, you're very welcome to NICVA early in the morning before you head off on the canvassing trail. Stephen, you've worked in the volunteering community sector for a long time, and now you've made the leap into running as a candidate for the Ulster Unionist Party. Can you tell us what motivated you to make that change?
Well, like many people in the voluntary community sector, have spent many years banging my head against those who actually make the policies. And at the end of the day, for us to make the changes that we really want to see in society, somebody has to get in there and make them from the top down. So my reason for standing, both as a councillor and now for the Assembly, is I want to make the things that the voluntary community sector recognise need to be done. I want to make those things happen, and I want to make them from the top down, so that civil servants are responding to the politicians rather than always setting aside the voluntary community sector.
Fair enough. The UUP manifesto is really rich in policy output. And from your experience as a community development worker and your experience now managing a healthy living centre, what aspects of the manifesto, for example, you've got a whole section on stronger, safer and fairer communities, you've mentioned social justice, what aspects of the manifesto really stand out for you and do you think are important?
Well, I think our commitment to supporting the voluntary community sector is very important. We recognise that many times the people who know the answers are those who work closely on the ground, and in many cases those are community groups or voluntary organisations. And our manifesto, while it was written by our policy officers within the party, they did so in consultation with all of the major voluntary and community sector organisations. Whenever we were talking with senior citizens, we talked to Youth Concern and Help the Aged and we took their views. Whenever we were talking about animal welfare, for example, we talked to the League Against Cruel Sports. Whenever we wanted to talk about issues in terms of young children and young people, we talked to NICVA, we talked to people in Sure Start programmes. We got an understanding of what it was actually like on the ground, and we wrote the policy to meet the needs of the people, not to meet the needs of the politicians.
Okay, and one of the areas of the manifesto, and I suppose the area you have a lot of experience in, is health. In Northern Ireland we spend a lot of our time treating and managing chronic illness and disease. We focus a lot of our money on acute services. Do you think we've got it the right way around?
Not as yet. We still spend an awful lot of money on the acute sector, and really as that budget goes up and up and up, at some point it could very well cripple the economy in Northern Ireland unless we get ahead of the game, get upstream and address the causes of ill health. The biggest cause of ill health, the one that's really clearly identified, is poverty. And unless we address poverty, we're not going to be in a position to address the health needs of our society. So we have to lift people out of poverty to give them the better opportunities that bring with it better health.
Yeah, your manifesto also mentions closing the gap between the rich and the poor and an anti-poverty strategy. How big a priority will that be for you or the Ulster Unionist Party if Assembly comes?
There's a whole section of our society, and for us, the majority of them actually reside in unionist and Protestant working class areas, who stay away from politics because politics isn't relevant to them. And that's really a damning indictment of a politician. If the people who have the least buy-in to politics, we have to make politics relevant, and the way to do that is to make changes in their lives and make changes for the better. That brings with it a whole range of economic benefits for society, of educational benefits for children. The children who do poor in school come from the same communities as those that have health problems, as those that have low-income jobs. Those are communities we really have to make a change in.
And what do you think would be the key, I suppose, priorities for you in really impacting on poverty?
It's about getting the rest of the government and the rest of the parties to understand that there's no one single solution. It has to be that, what much talked about, joined up approach. We have to ensure that the parents in those areas have an understanding of the importance of education. We have to have employment in those areas that children are going to be able to go into, and I mean good quality employment with good progression rates. We need to address the primary care needs of people within those areas. And the area we're sitting in, the likes of the New Lodge and Duncairn, we have to address the environmental and the housing issues for people who are living there and give them a sense of self-worth. That within that society, they're as important as anybody who's living in the Malone Road or on the Antrim Road, that they have a place in this society, they have a stake in it, and we have a stake in them.
Your manifesto talks about creating a shared society and a rights-based approach to social issues. Is that something that the Ulster Unionist Party will be committed to in the Assembly as well as on paper at the moment?
It is, and there's one of the ways we're addressing that is we're going out and talking to people. And for a long time, politicians, I think, in all parties, took the idea that they had all the answers. And at the end of the day, we don't have the answers, and sometimes we don't even know the right questions they ask. So we need to know what people feel they're being denied. And it's okay when people say we're going to give you rights, but we don't know what the sense is that people feel they're being denied. And we have to get to the point where rights are universal, and that people have access to whatever they believe they need, without anyone saying, I need more than any other section, that we have a universality about what rights are and about people having an equal stake in the society we live in.
Okay, and of course one aspect of implementing rights across society is the inclusion of women. And women in public life is a very important part of that. This time round in the Assembly elections, the number of female candidates is shockingly low. What's the UUP going to do to address that within your own party?
It's something that's concerned us. I mean, I went to a selection meeting where probably it was 50% women and men who were taking the decision on who was going to run. We haven't had an awful lot of women come forward and putting their names forward for selection, and we have some fantastic women in the party, very highly qualified, some coming from the voluntary community sector who have all of the experience that we need to see in the Assembly. So we're looking at the ways in which we can break down the barriers for women to come forward. One of the things that we in the party have identified, for example, is the cost of actually running an election and how much that could be off-putting. It's a number of thousands of pounds. So what we've done is that the party is actually now going to centrally fund candidates. And that takes away that barrier, not only for women, but for young people. How does a young person coming out of university who hasn't actually been able to pay off their university loan, can they take a risk and try and run an election? Not at the minute they can, but we have changed that to ensure that all of our candidates have an equal opportunity, and that includes young people and women.
Okay, Stephen, I'm going to let you get back to shaking hands and knocking on doors. Thank you very much for coming in this morning.
Okay, thank you.